do that.
There we go. The webinar is now broadcasting. Okay, cool. Looks like we've got some attendees coming in. Natalie, Keon, what's happening? What's going on? Got more people rolling through. Wonderful. Hi. Hi, friends. We're going to kick off in just a few minutes here. I see more people joining. Brandy, Alessandra, Brendan, hello. Jeff, what's happening? Hi, friends. Hi, Tony. I guess we need our other co-panelist, Jewel, as well. So we'll be kicking it off in just a moment here. Dylan, we cannot hear you, but hello. AJ, what's up? What's happening? Uh-oh. Joe, do you mind pinging Jewel and seeing if she's gonna pop on right now? And then we'll kick this off.
Definitely. We need our Jewel.
We need our co-host, I know.
Looks like she's having some technical difficulties, but let's see.
Just a couple more minutes here and we'll get rocking and rolling, but it's great to see so many people show up. Hi, Sam. How's it going? Charmaine, hello. Is she having difficulties, Joe? Because I can just get us kicked off if.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some difficulty around being a co-host. One second, let's just make sure that she can access. I promise that we're tech savvy over here at Headset. Log in. Okay. Okay. You know, Joss, probably I think we can, I don't want to hold everyone up, but I can maybe even like sub in for Jewel. If,
there we go. We made it, woo! Okay, wonderful. We're here. Thank you everyone for hanging in there with us. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we're gonna kick it off and get started here. Okay, beautiful. So hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm so glad that you could be here. My name is Jocelyn and I'm the Director of West Coast Strategy at Headset. And I'm based here in Oakland, California. I've been a part of the cannabis industry for 2 years now, and I've become a pretty active community member in this time. I find myself involved in different city and state associations, attending city council meetings to push pro-cannabis policy, and I'm really passionate about working with equity businesses. So through my work at Headset, I spend my time educating people on the trends that Headset sees, and really the benefits of incorporating a data strategy. I care deeply about the health of our industry, and so I welcome conversations with you all, and I hope that this session can be interactive, so please put any questions into the chat box. So today, we're going to talk through customer acquisition, and we're going to look at what does customer acquisition mean. We're going to talk about how to use this through Headset's retailer premium software, and we're going to look at answering some really important questions like, what is the role of the analyst? How should I incorporate data into a customer acquisition strategy? And what does the customer profile in California look like? So we designed this session for people that are working at retailers and in the role of operations, inventory, and marketing. So as someone working at a cannabis retailer in the midst of a global pandemic, why do you want to think about customer acquisition right now? Well, we want to think about customer acquisition because your customers are the lifeblood of your business. You want to keep existing customers coming back, you want to increase the size of their baskets and their purchases, and you want to get new customers coming in. So investing in a data strategy is really important right now because retailers in California are already operating at a deficit. They're operating legal businesses with a thriving illicit market. So to put this into context, California did nearly $3 billion in sales in 2019. That's legal sales. And industry insiders estimate that the illicit market is at around $9 billion. So as we go into budget cuts because of this economic downturn, cities and the state, they're being asked to do a lot more with less. So in Los Angeles, the proposed cannabis budget is going to be cut in half from 10 million to 5 million. And this money was being used for enforcing and investigating all these illegal businesses. Now, California just released some tax data for Q1 of 2020, and Governor Newsom reported that the excise revenue is going to be at 443 million. This is 36 million less than what was anticipated in January, and the projections for next year are expected to decrease again. But this reported decrease, this doesn't mean that California isn't growing. And I think this is really important because you'll see at Headset that we report that sales are continuing to increase month over month. And so while this reported tax data, it does appear that there's decreases quarter over quarter, this is actually a false trend. So California started reporting tax holiday that all of the cannabis tax in March. California only reports the taxes that have been remitted. So retailers weren't required to pay taxes for March by the normal deadlines that they had. So some of those taxes were extended for 60 days, some even up to 12 months. And this is really important to consider right now because there's going to be economic fallout from COVID. And with having less enforcement, the illicit market's going to continue to thrive. But we need to be rest assured that sales in California are going to continue to grow. Now, I say all this because you're competing for the same customer's attention and budget that you would with the illicit market. So aside from competing with the illicit market, the industry has also faced two major crises over the last year. And this has resulted in changes in what products people are buying, when they're buying, and how they're buying. So during COVID, for example, we've seen customer preferences shift. And this has resulted in people purchasing more edibles. And then we're seeing declines in vapes, pre-rolls, and topical sales. We're also seeing that people are purchasing earlier in the day and more on weekdays. So delivery is also becoming more popular. And understanding all of these market dynamics and all these changes in customer preferences, this is what's going to allow you to be responsive and nimble, which is going to serve your customers best. So with all of this said, what we're here to do today is to really give you some tools and some strategies to help you grow your customers and keep your existing customers happy. So before I pass it over to Joe and Jewel to dig in a little further, I want to give some background on Headset and our ecosystem. So Headset is a cannabis data company, and we were started by the founders of Leafly 5 years ago. So this is Cy, Brian, and Scott from right to left. And they really started the company because they wanted to help cannabis businesses succeed, and they wanted to do it through great software and data. So they've been a part of the cannabis industry for 10 years now, and they've been rocking and rolling up in Seattle for the last 5. Now at Headset, we have 3 different product offerings. The first of our products is called Insights, and this is a market intelligence tool. So this product, it allows any producer to really find information on sales, brand rankings, pricing, and discounting trends. The second platform is called Retailer, and we offer a basic and a premium version of this product. And what this does is it helps retailers with inventory management, demand planning, and marketing. And today we're specifically going to be looking at Retailer Premium. And then lastly is our Bridge software. And this is a vendor managed inventory platform. And this product allows retailers to directly share their sell-through rates with brands to help better manage inventory so that y'all can avoid stockouts and overstocks. So our whole goal here at Headset is to help businesses make better decisions through data because this predictability, it creates a healthy supply chain, and a healthy supply chain is going to be necessary for us to have a healthy industry. So with all of that said, I'm really happy to introduce everyone to Jewel LeRae and Joe Colin. So Jewel is our senior product manager, and she creates the really rich environments that y'all interact with. And not only is she a badass PM, but she also plays in 2 bands. One is a psychedelic dream pop band called Frond, and the other is a hard rock band called the Grizzled Mighty. And you can find her playing all around Seattle and beyond. And next, I'd like to introduce Joe Colin. So Joe is also based in Seattle, and he works as a customer success manager. And when he's not working with our 1,000 plus retail clients, he is exploring the nature and the beauty of Washington and is a rare bird species watcher. Okay, so now I'm going to kick it over to Joe and Jewel, and they're going to walk through some use cases. They're going to show you what the platform looks like. And I just want to remind everyone to please put any questions that you have in the chat box, and we're going to open up into Q&A at the end here.
All right, thanks, Jocelyn. So when we talk about knowing our customers, we're really talking about 2 things. So knowing their demographics and knowing their purchasing habits. So just to kind of get us all on the same page, let's first take a step back and understand who cannabis consumers in California are at large. And one interesting way to just put this into context is to compare it to the general population. So on the left here, we have California consumer demographics. So this data was put together by our analytics team and is projected from real transactions from the retailers we work with in California. So this is that insights product that Jocelyn was talking about. And this demographics data is actually being added to insights within the next month. So pretty exciting stuff if you want to understand California as a whole. So when we compare cannabis shoppers in California to the general California population, obviously there's a whole 25% of the population that's underage that we're not going to serve here in the legal market. But you can see millennials especially are really overrepresented. So millennials, they're going to be more comfortable with cannabis. They're in a place in their life where they can really use it more. But we also see kind of the next biggest group in cannabis shoppers is Generation X. And we can see males, which is the lighter orange, a little more overrepresented in cannabis shoppers than in the general population, so 15 compared to 9. Whereas females, who probably from the same, same kind of socially acceptable realm as the males, yet they are a little bit under what their general population is. So to me, that signals like, hey, maybe there's some room for growth here. And of course, we can look at the other, Gen Z's pretty much equal with where they are. Baby boomers, we can probably grow that market too. So this is just a very general way to start to understand who's there. And of course, we can get more down to your store level, and that's what we're going to do today. So next, we'll dig more into demographics in a second, but I just want to set the stage with one more interesting trend. So with the recent COVID pandemic, we've seen purchasing behavior of customers change very rapidly. Notably, they're buying less pre-rolls and other inhalables and purchasing more edibles, which makes sense when we're talking about, a respiratory disease. And when you have to stay in your apartment more, you probably are not trying to smoke up your entire apartment all the time. So these things can happen and change really fast. You can see this is just week 3 of the pandemic happening. And it was about an 11% growth in the first 3 weeks. So Joe, why is this like a significant thing for our audience here to understand?
Yeah, so Julia, you kind of set the stage for the California consumer landscape, what that looks like at scale. But from what we just saw, consumption is not static. Consumer purchasing patterns are quite dynamic, as seen by that shift towards edibles over the last few months. And even further, consumption trends can be very unique to your specific retail operation. And you as a retailer likely fill some sort of niche. You're probably attracting a fairly specific customer. The customer is choosing to come to your store over some other store for a reason. And you want to exploit that. You want to capitalize on that because, as Joss mentioned, you're already operating at a customer deficit. So if you have a niche, you should definitely lean in. And that's why it's so important to drill into your customer and analyze your real-time transactional data in addition to looking at the market as a whole. But when thinking about understanding who your customer is and then ultimately growing that customer base, acquiring new customers, new business, what's the best way to approach that? What's the strategy involved? I think the best approach is really to come up with initiatives that are easy to understand, measure, and ones that are specific to your business. And you can start to do that by first breaking out your sales into different components. So if we look at this image, total revenue is made up of only 2 things. And those 2 things are the number of customers in your store, or the number of shoppers, and the average revenue per customer. It's as simple as that. If you don't believe me, you can do the math yourself. If you'd like to focus on, say, growing revenue through increasing your number of customers you have, so kind of taking the left-hand side, there are only 2 things you can focus on: recruiting new customers or getting your current customers to return to your stores more often. If you would like to focus on growing revenue through increasing the average revenue per customer, so looking at the right-hand side of the graph, there are only two ways you can go about that. So one, increasing the number of trips that a customer makes, and two, increasing the amount of money a customer spends per trip. And then you can even break those out even further into more granular components. But I think this framework really helps you understand where you should focus your efforts, you know, which lever to pull essentially when you're devising a strategy to acquire customers, and doing that in a way that is data-driven, in a way that grows your business to its fullest potential. So how does retailer premium fit into all of this? How does Headset kind of help you navigate this? Retailer premium is really built in a way that kind of mirrors that framework that we just looked at, and all the dashboards tie back to it in some way. So much like Retailer Pulse, which is the subscription that probably most of you have, the premium dashboards are collecting your real-time transactional data. And by collecting that data, we're able to provide you with really rich insight around who your customer is, what they're purchasing, when they're purchasing those products, enabling you to grow your business instead of wasting time downloading, cleaning data files, refreshing spreadsheets, et cetera. So rather than just demo the product, Jewel and I are going to role play. So we want to show you how you could potentially use this to solve some real life business use cases. So given that this is a California focused webinar, and upon seeing the recent shift in consumption towards edibles, we want to leverage retailer premium for this specific business use case to better understand the opportunities where we can attract more of these edible consumers, and at the same time get them to spend a little bit more or a lot of bit more money. So Jewel is going to serve as our marketing manager, and her task is really to try to get more shoppers in the door. And then we're going to switch, and then I'll be kind of playing the product sales manager, and we'll try to use premium to drive larger baskets to get customers to spend more money. So if you want to frame this in terms of that diagram, you can see in this slide that Jewel is kind of taking the left-hand side, and then I'm taking the right. So Jewel, do you want to teach us how we can grow our customer base?
Yes, I would love to. So let's get into Headset. So before we get started, I just want to kind of orient you to where all of this stuff lives. So this is Headset Retailer, if you've never seen it. We actually have 4 modules here in Premium. We're not going to go over every single dashboard because we're going through a very focused use case here. But even if I didn't have that kind of, we already somewhat have a strategy, right? Joe wants to target edibles. I think that's a great idea. It's the right time to do it as there is a respiratory disease out there right now. And edibles is something that we can really compete on against the illicit market because we can have a lot more consistency with our products because of the regulatory structures in place. So our customers can be a lot more confident that they're getting what they have gotten before and that it's going to do what it says it's going to do. So we're going to, there's obviously a lot of dashboards here, but we're going to jump in since we already know what category we really want to build on. We're going to start by looking at product purchase behavior from a demographics lens. So just to orient us to what's in this data and kind of where it's coming from, up here at the top of every single demographics dashboard, we talk about the customer data availability. So we don't necessarily have demographics for every person that comes to your store. It's really kind of dependent on your point of sale and how your bartenders are entering in the information. But we can see that for our store here, we're looking at 365 days. In that time, we have information for almost 7,000 unique customers. And we've got customer information for about 35% of those. So that's a pretty good sample size. Age group, we've got 39%, so that's a fairly good sample size. Gender, we've only got around 7%. So we're gonna take all those gender stats with a grain of salt, but they still can give us some guidance. So what this dashboard product purchase behavior is really about is looking at the kinds of products people buy via category. But we could also use this by brand, package size, or vendor. But today we're really just focused on edibles. We're not focused on any particular brand right at the second. So we're just going to look at it from this really kind of wide view. So to start with, we can already see that, again, taking this with a grain of salt, but we can see that there is somewhat of a female skew towards edibles, both solid and liquid. So those would be beverages. And if you remember looking at those statewide stats, we saw that females generally not buying as much as males. That means they're a bigger category to grow. There's more of them out there that aren't shopping yet. So targeting them could be a very good way to get new customers in. And if we look at the sales split by generation here, so each one of these bars is a different category. And we can see for the most part in the light blue, Generation Z, the dark blue, millennials, they're kind of dominating most of the markets here. But when we look at edibles, we actually see some pretty significant, a little bit more variance with age groups. So it's becoming increasingly clear that like the Gen X and the younger baby boomers, so those people that are kind of in the 36 to 55 age ranges, they're pretty comfortable with edibles. And I think that means we could probably really focus on that to help grow those customer bases more. And I just want to direct your attention to one more graph on this dashboard here, which is our cannabis wallet by age group. So we can see how much any age group is spending, where kind of their money is going to. So if we look at that younger baby boomer group, the 46 to 55, we can see they actually already are pretty solid edible customers. So about, if you combine both beverages and edibles, that's almost nearly 30% of their purchases. So that's great. That means this is a group that would really easily kind of respond to marketing if we're focusing on edibles. Now the 36 to 45, this is interesting too, because their edible purchases are actually pretty small, even compared to some of the younger groups. So to me, that means they're primed for learning more about these products. And maybe we can convert some of them to, hey, start adding edibles into your repertoire of the way you consume cannabis, because it's going to help save your lungs, and nice and discreet. There's all kinds of benefits to edibles. So this is I'm already starting to, as a marketing manager, get some ideas of the kinds of messages I might want to send out to both of these groups. Kind of here, we're really like, hey, get in the store. We've got the things. You already want edibles. We've got the edibles. Let's make it happen. And in this group, we have both people that are coming in already and people that maybe we can convince to like, hey, maybe you should think about the way you're consuming, and let's talk about some different methods. Have you tried these new things? So next, we're going to look a little bit at the revenue that is generated. So I've filtered out to my age groups of just kind of those older groups, because I think that they're really kind of the groups that are ready to grow. They're going to be, they're not as much coming into the store yet, and they're probably people that are going to be a little more sketched out by going to illicit stores. So they've got money to spend, they're nice and established in life, they are ready and primed to participate in the legal market. So one thing that we can talk about when we're talking about customer revenue is the number of trips they're taking. So it's great if we get new people in the door, but is that really where our revenue is coming from? So here in this histogram, we can see in the light blue, the count of customers, and in the dark blue, the total sales in that period. So even though the number of customers that just make one trip, like all over double the amount of 2 trips already. But from a revenue perspective, it's really not that much of a driver. And this is really illustrated down here when we compare these 2 pie charts. So people who make one trip, that's about 40% of our total customers in these age groups. But that really only makes up about 8% of our revenue. And of course, this makes sense the more you think about it. Obviously, the more trips you make, the more kind of the lifetime value of a customer. So let's take a look at what's really the differences between who's making one trip and who's making multiple trips. So when we come down here to our breakdown by our demographics, we can see here we have our females, 36 to 45 and 46 to 55. And here we have our males. So those males, Gen Xers, they seem to be pretty comfortable with coming in repeat trips. We even have a couple that are coming for 24 or more trips in the last 90 days. So that's someone buying a lot of product. And that's great. That's what we want. We want that kind of store loyalty. But females in that same generation, pretty much none of them have made more than one trip. So this is signaling to me that maybe we need to do some kind of campaign that makes them not just get into the store, but become loyal to the store and really want to come back. So there's all kinds of things we can do. Maybe we can run some kind of campaign that has the, like, here's a discount if you sign up for our loyalty program. Here's like an extra bump on top of it, and your next 5 purchases will get, 15% off or something like that. So if I wanted to run that kind of thing, I first need to get people into the door that aren't getting there. So let's kind of switch gears, and we've gone through enough demographics to know the demographics we want to target. But we also have all these great new marketing dashboards. And the one I'm going to look at is the referral source by demographics. So I have that loaded up here. And I'm going to have all of my referral sources. Just get this nice and loaded up. And I'm going to look specifically at these ones here. Awesome. And I'm going to once again filter this to those age groups I'm interested in, which are Gen X, younger baby boomers. Of course, we could grow more of the older set, but they shouldn't really be going outside right now. So when we look at this, we can see kind of the age group and where they're getting their referrals from. And what we find is that Yelp, way more than any of the cannabis-specific advertising platforms like Leafly or Weed Maps, it seems like Yelp is really where this older set is getting their information from. And we can even break this down more. And we can see from that Generation X, they're especially on Yelp. The slightly older folks really kind of just driving by and seeing that that's a place that you can buy some pot at. So when we think, and we can actually look at the amount that we receive from each of these referral sources. So if I'm going to run a campaign, I think probably Yelp seems like the place to do it if I'm trying to attract older customers, but maybe also just some good signage in the front so that they feel safe knowing they know what they're going to get when they get in there. And when I'm ready to measure it, I can come back and kind of look at and compare my spend to how much money was actually generated. And I could even filter this just to the date range post my spend and really see, was that marketing worth it? Another way I can kind of measure success here is I'm really trying to grow some very specific demographics. I'm trying to grow specifically females, but really anyone, Generation X and younger baby boomers. So I could go back to the demographics section and look at these customer counts and look over time, and I'll look at kind of that week I was running that promotion and hopefully see some upward trends. And I can look at by the numbers, who's coming in, what's their age group, what's their customer count. I can see right there how many people are coming in. So it's not just about figuring out what you're going to do by looking at the demographics and then making a plan of where you're going to do it by looking at marketing. But after the fact, we can also measure, see if it was successful, and then iterate on it. So double down on the things that worked, change some things, tweak some things. And that's the beauty of having all of this real-time data at our fingertips, is we can really make these decisions and iterate on them and always change to meet the needs of our changing customer base. So Joe, I think I know how I'm going to target this group. So I'd love to know, once we get these customers and I'm getting them to make, 3 or 4 or 5 trips, how are we making sure that those trips are really worth it?
Totally. So Jules kind of touched on the who do we target, which customers are we going to focus our acquisition efforts on, as well as our customer retention strategies. Again, my objective as the product sales marketer is going to get these edible consumers who Jewel is going to be bringing into the door to spend more money. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a baseline. So I'm going to first look at the average basket size when an edible is purchased. And I'm going to be working within this basket analysis module, and this is all intra-basket analytics. So Jewel was kind of operating in this customer analysis, looking at who we should focus our marketing efforts on. Basket analysis is going to help me identify what products that we should, what products would be strategic in promoting to these edible consumers. So the first dashboard I'm going to look at is basket analysis details, and this is where I'm going to get a baseline of my average basket size when an edible is purchased, meaning when an edible is purchased either by itself or with other products, what is the average size of that transaction? So rather than a basket, you could think of this as an average receipt transaction. Our analytics team just likes to call it basket. So I know that over the last 60 days here, which is my time frame set, edibles, if we look at solid edibles fetched an average of $44.14. So when an edible product was in the basket, that basket on average was $44.14. But I want to get that number higher. I want to bump that up. And I'm going to do that by incentivizing some sort of cross-sell opportunity, promoting some sort of bundle deal. So buy this edible product, and in doing so, get 10% off this other product. It's a deal for the customer, and it's ultimately driving a larger basket. So beyond the category level, I need to know which products or which kind of brands would be best to promote. And I can do that by slicing the data by brand. So if I slice the data by brand and I just focus on edibles, I can kind of analyze the, how different brands influence the basket size. All right. So we introduced a new metric here that you may already have picked up on, and that's basket penetration. And basket penetration means that out of all the total baskets sold within your time frame, so we're looking at 60 days here, what percentage of those baskets contained the respective brand? So if we look at this 3.5% on Vertilex, this means that out of all the baskets sold in the last 60 days, 3.5% of them contained some sort of Vertilex edible product. So products with higher basket penetration are more likely to be driving sales and therefore should be kept consistently in stock. So knowing that Vertilex is actually a revenue driver, it has the highest basket penetration here. I know that there's enough consumer demand for this product that I'm confident a bundle deal, kind of a cross-sell opportunity, would be effective. So Vertilex it is. I'm going to focus on that brand, but I need to know what to bundle this with. So if I'm selling Vertilex, what other product do I need to bundle it with? To do that, I can start to dig into attachment rate. So we've kind of identified our driver product here, but we need to know what to promote it with, cross-promote it with. And so we have a dashboard here called attachment rate. And this is another metric that we introduced. And attachment rate depicts the relationship between a driver product and the influence that it has on a consumer to also purchase a passenger product. So a good example of this is like peanut butter and jelly. I love peanut butter, and when I go to the store, I generally purchase peanut butter on its own. Maybe 10% of the time, when I purchase peanut butter, I'll also purchase jelly because maybe I have a hankering for a PB&J. Very rarely, I'd say almost never, do I purchase jelly on its own. So in analyzing the relationship between these two products, we can assume that peanut butter is the driver and jelly is the passenger. So if 10% of my baskets with peanut butter also contain jelly, we can say that jelly has a 10% attachment rate to peanut butter. So if I want to put this in the context of edibles, we can start to see like, what is the jelly to my edible, essentially, if we kind of want to make that analogy. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in this dashboard, kind of jumped ahead of myself. I'm going to slice the data by category when this loads. Okay, so you'll notice that the data is being sliced by brand. So this is looking at brand attachment, but I don't want to get that granular yet. I just want to start at the category level to see which categories attach nicely to edibles. So come on, all right, here. Slice through the category, all right. So what this is going to do is it's going to show you all of your categories in a column, and then it's going to show you how all your categories attach to those specific categories. So your driver is going to be here, passengers are going to be here. So if we look at edible solid right here, we drill into this example with concentrates. Concentrates have a 23.2% attachment rate to solid edibles. So what that's saying is that out of that 1 out of every 4 or maybe 5 baskets that contain an edible will also contain a concentrate product. So flour has a slightly high attachment rate, higher attachment rates than concentrates. You know, we look at pre-rolls. Pre-rolls has a fairly good attachment rate to edibles. But because the ultimate goal here is to drive larger baskets, I'm probably going to choose concentrates as the product that I'm going to cross-promote edibles with, because concentrates tend to be a little bit more expensive. And the attachment rate is only like 1 or 2% less than flour. So I think that's kind of what I'm going to land on, Jewel. I'm going to choose my Vertilex brand as the edible that I'm going to promote, and then I'm going to create some sort of bundle deal with a concentrate product. Because I'm ultimately trying to appeal to the edible consumer, not the concentrate consumer, I'll probably choose more of like a budget-friendly concentrate that's not going to scare off the edible consumer. I still want this promotion to be effective, and I want it to be desirable, so I don't want to make it obscenely large, but that's going to kind of be my strategy at driving a larger basket size. And just like Jewel said, this is an iterative process. You can go back into the platform. You can go back into that basket analysis details page. You can see if in running this promotion, did my average basket size with an edible, did it increase? Did the basket penetration of those Vertilex products, did that increase? Did it surpass that 3.5%? So not only can this help you inform what promotions, what marketing strategies to adopt, it can also help you after the fact measure the impact it had so that you can get kind of an ROI on some of these recruitment strategies. So Jewel, it looks like we've kind of, if we married the two, we'd have a good strategy. You kind of know who to target. We know what products to kind of promote. And one last dashboard that we actually didn't cover, and I'm not going to cover it today because I don't want this to be a fire hose to the face kind of situation, overwhelm you with data. But demand planning could actually help you with the when of when should I run this promotion. So what it could help you do is inform, you know, the cadence that you put these marketing promotions out. Should I do that on a Saturday? Because Saturdays generally tend to attract more edible consumers. Is there a certain hour of the day that may be more lucrative for that edible consumer when that edible consumer is coming into the store? so that's kind of what this module is all focused around. But today we're really just focused on the customer analysis and then the basket analysis piece. Lastly, I think, Joel, if you want to chime in here too, feel free to, but we'd love to show you what this looks like with your data. So we can turn this on for you and demo it for your store if you're already connected to Headset. So you can see how it's compatible with your data set. We can start to run through some of these business use cases so that you get an idea of what this looks like in real time. But I would really encourage you after the call, we're going to send out a follow-up link where you can actually sign up for a demo. So we're looking forward to showing you this product more. Joss, if you want to kind of round this out.
So I just threw the link into the chat box. So y'all can feel free to click on that and we can find some time to demo this with you on your own data. Thank you, Joel, for walking us through this. We launched this platform. When did we roll out Retailer Premium? Like 2 months ago at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the really exciting thing about this, I talked in the beginning a lot about like the challenges that you have driving new customers, whether it's the illicit market. Sorry, that's here in Oakland. Ooh. The illicit market and also the challenges that we have, whether it's taxes and so forth. The thing that we've built with Retailer Premium, this is the way that other mature industries operate. So that's really incorporated in the philosophy. And so I think the other important thing to think about is that this is going to be the norm for us. And as we start to mature as an industry, we're going to see more skill sets that are coming in that are of this consumer packaged goods, this retail background. And also your investors, they really are going to care that you have these strategies well thought through and that you have some plan to go to them with. And so this tool is really designed to help you prepare not just for now and what's happening with all the challenges our industry, but also thinking to the future as we move into federal legalization and our standards and best practices for running businesses become much more mature. So I'm really excited that you're seeing this innovation and that we're building products this quickly. I also want to note that Jewel is, I mentioned in the beginning, she's responsible for building out this platform and building all these environments. So we're always welcome to any feedback. Things that you would like to see. And we're going to be doing more of these sessions. We're going to do them more localized into specific markets. We are a, North America company, so we're in Canada as well as many different states, 28 different markets throughout the United States. But our goal is really to help y'all understand all of the individual market nuances that we're seeing and teach you about all of the great things that our team knows about how this data analysis works in other industries. So please feel free to reach out to us and use us as a resource. This is so much more than just building great technology. It's really about understanding how to utilize it. Because as we all know, data is only good if you know how to use it and make use of it. So we're happy that we could help you do that. And any other sessions that you would like to learn about, things like impact analysis, consumer trends, and comparing your data versus the state in particular categories, send us that feedback and we can consider it for future webinars. So we'll open up to a few questions if you want to throw anything into the chat box. I see Natalie here. Will we have access to this webinar? Yes, you certainly will. And apologies for the lack of being able to see the whole presentation at the beginning, but we will send this out. Anyone else? Hopefully next time we can also video too, because the other thing about our community here in California is that we're such a tight-knit community, and I feel like there's a lot that we can be doing to just share knowledge with each other. So next time, let's all turn on our videos and get to interact with each other. Okay, so I do have a question. So how is the illicit market data calculated? So the illicit market data, I actually had received this, there was an ArcView webinar yesterday in which this 9 billion number had been reported. So this is an estimate from industry insiders. However, I will say that I spoke with UCBA, which is a retail group based in Los Angeles, so they work throughout California, and they had given me also a number from a survey that they had run within their group, which was quoted at about 4 to 5 billion in just Los Angeles. Obviously, the illicit market in Los Angeles is much larger than compared to, you know, San Francisco, for example. So I think that number might make sense. Cool. Any other questions before we close out? Okay, wonderful. So we threw this link in, and feel free to book time with us, and also feel free to connect with any of us individually. And thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks, Joss.